The multiverse is vast, and in the multiverse, there is Earth 2, and they need help. Apocalypse started to try and invade Earth 2, but it was pushed back. But that was only temporary. In the second attempt, the heroes assembled again to push back Apocalypse, which leads us to now. While stopping the fire pits, Lois Lane, Power Girl, Val Zod, and Batman lost Clark Kent while freeing the Red Avatar. Helena was also captured and changed into the Fury of Famine. The Red Avatar, now free, changes from a fire-breathing monster into a young girl named Yolanda. Then, she breathes fire on the ceiling and begins to burrow her way out of the fire pits. Lois can tell that she has started a chain reaction, and while they've lost 2 of their friends to this mission, it's time to get out of here as they've won. So everyone begins to follow the Red Avatar out of the fire pits, and then up at the surface, the Avatars are losing their battle as they are outnumbered. Green Lantern, Grundy, the Avatar of White, and of Blue are all fighting against the Furies, and with the added power of the new Fury of Famine, they can't win. They need the Avatar of Red, and then the ground begins to crack, and it begins to break, and the power of Red pours through it as the Avatar of Red breaks through the ground, revealing herself. Batman, Val Zod, Lois, and Kara all walk back up to the surface, thankful to have survived. The cost was high, but Apocalypse can't make any more parademons. It's the biggest victory that they've won since this war started, and while they know that this isn't done, Val Zod and Kara take a moment to bury Clark Kent on the world that he loved. Lois flies over and she hands Kara the family crest that she took from the trophy case in the fire pits, telling her that this belongs to her now. Power Girl attaches it to her chest, representing the family. While this is going on, Mr. Terrific, Mr. Miracle, Fury, and Sandman all went to Apocalypse to invade it, and they ended up failing and boom-tubing back to Earth. Everyone welcomes them back, and Mr. Miracle explains that it was a failure. They were betrayed by Barda and Sloan. But with everything that has happened, Jimmy Olsen has now become a part of the Source itself, and he tells them that he found something interesting. Terry Sloan has a ship cloaked in space that can hold 100,000 people, and it's time for them to commandeer it and save who they can. Back with Batman, Lois, Kara, and Val Zod, the Flash radios in a report telling them about the Furies and where they are. So they all load up and they head out. The battle against the Avatars and the Furies still seems to be raging on, as even with the help of the Red Avatar, they are still at a standstill. And that's when our other wonders arrive. Lois grabs the Fury of Pestilence, and since she's a robot, the diseases won't affect her, while Val Zod grabs War to offset her solar-powered abilities. While this is happening, Batman is flying a jet into the Fury of Death, and Huntress flies over, tearing the wings off of his jet. Luckily, he leaps to safety and the Green Lantern catches him, and Power Girl follows up on his attack by slamming into the Huntress so hard that she brings her to the brink of death, tearing Apocalypse's hold off of her. With tears in her eyes, she realizes what she did, and Hell tries to get out the words, "Darkseid won't let you keep me." Kara begins to cry out, come back, Hell, please!" But this isn't a time for mourning, as the Fury of Death has just given birth to the child that she's been carrying this whole time. Batman runs over, being that he is actually Thomas Wayne, her grandfather, and a surgeon, he can't allow her to die. While his drugs were destroyed earlier by Val Zod, he has always carried a backup, the Venom drug, and he injects her with it. Her heart begins to race and pump with adrenaline as she snaps back to life and begins to throw up whatever Desaad injected her with. Kara grabs her, smiling. "You had one heck of a bender, girl." But the child of the Fury of Death rises into the air, shouting that it is the death spawn of Apocalypse, and it buries itself into the ground. Everyone wonders what just happened, but the Green Lantern knows. It's after the power of the Avatars, the Parliament of Earth. Back in Apocalypse, Barda wants to know what Desaad's plan is next. Luckily for them, he isn't even close to done, and he shows her his Proto-Furies. Elsewhere, the Flash and Hawkgirl are walking the original Fury of Famine to safety now that she isn't under mind control. But then she drops to the ground, dying, telling them that the Furies have been defeated, and their link to Apocalypse is gone. The Furies are all dead. While Flash and Hawkgirl debate what to do with her body, the Proto-Furies attack. They radio into Lois, telling her that the Proto-Furies are attacking the tramway to the last bastion of human civilization, and they need to get there fast. Using their speed, Power Girl, Val Zod, and Lois all head off to fight against the Proto-Furies, leaving Hell and Batman there. Hell and Thomas Wayne look over the destruction, and Hell thanks him for saving her life. Then, as they head over to the World Army outpost, Jimmy calls up Batman, telling him one thing: find Oliver Queen. Bruce Wayne has a contingency, and he gave it to Oliver Queen, and Oliver Queen went missing. As Thomas takes off his mask, they both realize that they look like Bruce. Helena then tells Thomas that she remembers Oliver Queen. He was a playboy who liked to drink. But with everyone feeling like they might win this, Darkseid gets the report that the heroes have defiantly pushed back the armies of Apocalypse, and he decides it's time for World's End. Unleash the Terraformer! Everyone looks up to see something happening, something terrifying. Apocalypse's newest weapon of war is literally hitting the entire planet with everything. They have unleashed their super weapons. Hawkgirl and Flash watch them send down something into the fire pits, and then all of the fire pits begin to link up. The avatars all look on as they realize they aren't even close to saving the planet. Then, to make matters worse, they all drop in pain. The death spawn has made its way to the Parliament of Earth, and it is hurting them from the source of their powers. The Green Lantern screams into his ring, "Bring me to the Parliament now!" He is then warped down to see the death spawn with Earth in its grasp. He begins to blast the creature with everything, and then he jumps in, giving it a solid punch, but the death spawn catches him and throws him back into Earth. He then slams into the ground, trying to get to the core, and if he does, the Earth is done. Green Lantern tries to stomp him, but he can't, and the death spawn creates a hole and jumps into it. Meanwhile, Mr. Terrific, Mr. Miracle, Fury, and Sandman all load up into a rocket aimed at Terry Sloan's last remaining ship so that they can secure it. Mr. Miracle tells everyone, "I know I've said this before, but this time, I really mean it. Let's go save the world." Over at the entrance to Adam's Haven, the last bastion of human civilization, Val-Zod, Power Girl, and Lois all see the satellites of Apocalypse appearing over their heads, the things that are burning the ground around them, and they take off to do what they can. That's when they quickly realize that these things are intended to tenderize the Earth so that Apocalypse can devour it. Meanwhile, over in New York, Batman and Huntress are getting dropped off at Terry Sloan's old office because Huntress figures that if anyone had the data as to where Bruce hid the failsafe, it would be Terry Sloan. As they land, they see the things scorching the planet and they realize this is the end. They can't stop this. They walk inside and they hack into the computers, pulling up the information, and then they have their ride come to a flyby so that they can escape the building just as it's engulfed in the flames of Apocalypse. Over in Adam's Haven, Dick Grayson has finally arrived looking for his son. He hasn't seen Johnny since Chicago when he loaded him up on a train with the rest of the refugees, but that's when he sees a man that was there with John Constantine. After a slight battle because Ted Grant wants some answers, they explain that Brainwave has his son, and they'll bring him to see him. Back up in space on Terry Sloan's last remaining ship, the heroes walk into the command center, and they realize that the ship has been put on lockdown so that no one can access it. That's when Terry Sloan himself walks onto the command deck. "You guys seem to have forgotten me on Apocalypse." Everyone turns in shock and calls him a traitor, and then he explains that they need his help to escape. Or he'll drop the dimensional camouflage, keeping Apocalypse from finding them. Over with the avatars, they decide they only have one option: to pump the powers of every avatar into a single avatar. Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, knows that this means he'll lose Sam forever. There really isn't another option. It's the planet Earth or his lover. So Alan says one final goodbye to Sam, and Grundy fades away, giving his power to Alan. And then Sam fades away, giving his power. And then Yolanda gives Alan her abilities, but since she is a human being, she softly lands on the surface of the planet. The Parliament all speak to Alan, telling him to prepare for the ultimate conflict. Sorry that we made you guys wait, but we are back to finish up World's End. And don't worry, we're also going to explain where John Constantine is, because he has his own side story. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Comicstorian and Instagram @Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here.